Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Primetime Fantasy Podcast. A little bit of a different setup than what you're used to. Um, and we have a mock draft for you today. 2 round mock draft, not too much fantasy going on, but we can talk fantasy aspects when we get to those skill position players, such as the first overall pick. So we're just going to go back and forth. This is a 2 round mock draft. The first, 64 picks, 65, something like that. Um, so without further ado, let's just get into it. Nick, you have anything you want to say? Or,
No. And yes, it was 64 picks. 32 and 32 is 64. So,
well, see, I don't know when they add. See, compensatory picks don't come until the third round, right?
right.
Okay.
But these are just the normal draft, no compensatory picks, no
Yeah.
trades, nothing like that.
Yeah, we didn't do any trades for this because it's kind of tough to tell like what GM's value for certain picks. Um,
Right.
I guess DeAndre Hopkins is only
And
worth
in
a
the
second
first
rounder.
round, in the first 2 rounds, there'll probably be 3 to 5 trades anyways, but it's kind of hard to predict them. I think we both agree that the Lions are trying to trade down, but
Yeah,
who's going to trade up is there's probably three teams that could possibly trade up, so it's hard to do that.
that and it's like I think the only team with like the best ammunition to trade up is the Dolphins, and that's the team everybody's trying to get ahead of. So
Right.
there's not like I guess there's not a whole lot to do there. Um,
Right. All right,
so
Garrett. Well, we did flip-floppy picks, and you started out with the first pick. So why don't you get it started?
yep, first pick overall. And you guys know it. It's Joe Burrow to the Cincinnati Bengals. Um, I'm gonna make an unpopular opinion, and I don't think that this is a like. I don't think that this is like a Hall of Fame worthy selection. I've seen people that say that this is the best quarterback to come out of the draft since Andrew Luck. I think you're out of your mind. I see this guy as more of like a Matt Ryan, Matthew
Hey,
Stafford kind
that
of
that,
guy.
that was my comp when we did
Oh,
it last
really?
time. That was my comp.
Really? Okay.
And then you made fun of me because you thought Matt Ryan sucked. But I think Joe Burrow is a good quarterback. I think he's every bit as Matt Ryan. I don't
Yeah,
think
I
they're great.
I think he has the tools to be good. I just don't know if I believe in the Cincinnati training staff to like develop him and make him the best quarterback he could be. So there's that. But Ohio kid, he's got grit and he has the talent to be good enough to have a starting job in the league. So that's my pick at
Uh,
number one.
Quick question here for you, Garrett. If Tua was healthy, do you think the Bengals would still be in a lock to take Burrow, or do you think it would be harder for them
It would be harder for
if
them.
he was fully healthy?
It would be harder for them since Tua has a higher ceiling, and I think Tua is more talented personally. Um, but he because Joe Burrow played so well throughout the entire
Right.
season, no injury concerns, and stuff like that. So
Right.
I also want to mention that he played in an offense that was like very suited for people to succeed in. Like he had a lot of NFL
Yeah, he
talent
had
around him.
he had
Um,
a lot of NFL receivers on that team.
that and he
So,
had a new coaching staff come in and especially in the offensive side like Joe Brady. So yeah.
all right, moving on to number two. When we did a three-person mock, I had Tua going to the Redskins, but in this one, I'm taking Chase Young. I don't think the Redskins are going to be fully into Tua. They, I think Chase Young is the best player in this draft, and if you got an elite defensive lineman, I think they would love. Ron Rivera's a big defensive guy. They would love to have him in Washington. I think this is the pick here for them.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see them going anywhere else. They traded for Kyle Allen, and if they draft Tua, they'd have 3 quarterbacks under 25 on their team, and I just don't think that's
Right.
what they want to do. So, um, yeah, Chase Young, easy pick.
The real question is how long into the season will the Redskins go with Dwayne Haskins until Kyle Allen gets the nod? Do you think Haskins has a better year this year, or do you think he gets benched?
There's no chance he gets benched for Kyle Allen. I'm sorry. Kyle Allen had like a full season under his belt, and all of his yards came from Christian McCaffrey. Like
Yeah, dump off for 30 yards to McCaffrey on a screenplay.
basically, like
Hey, it
there's
still
not.
goes down as 30 yards in the scorebook, whether it's a screen or a long pass.
Yeah, but stats aren't everything, Nick. And I also
All right,
think that.
Garrett,
All right.
moving on to pick three. Well, did you have anything else to say about Kyle Allen? Because we both think he's a career backup, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's not a whole lot to say. Moving on to the
I'm
third
still
pick.
amazed. I'm still amazed that we had the Matt Ryan comp on the first one. Because if you go back to our first video, I said he's Matt Ryan. And so, did you get that comp from me, or did you just think he's Matt Ryan?
Well, I mean, yeah, I got that comp from you, Nick. I studied your tape. Moving on to the third pick, Detroit Lions. This is an easy pick. You're not getting a quarterback. You're getting Jeff Okuda, cornerback from Ohio State. Um, he's the best cornerback in the class by a long shot. You might be able to argue for C.J. Henderson being up there, but he's not. C.J. Henderson's not a top 10 pick. Um, there was a point in time when you could argue Derek Brown is this pick, but they got Danny Shelton who plays nose tackle. So I don't know why they would sign and draft a position in the same year. Oh wait, they did it last year with Jesse James and T.J. Hawkinson. So maybe I'm not crazy there, but Jeff Okuda is the pick here. And a lot of people want quarterback, but I think with the uncertain future of the Detroit Lions, um, it's not the best time to take a quarterback. It's because if he goes with like two different coaching staffs or even three, depending on
Right.
what the Lions do in the future, uh, the, very rarely does a team or does a quarterback do terrible on one team and then amazing on the next, which is why I think Jameis Winston's
Yeah.
not going to do well wherever he goes. But
Yeah, I agree with you here. I think Akuda's the pick. They trade away Slay. They bring in Desmond Trufant, who's older. He's not as good. People think they're getting the Trufant from 2, 3 years ago, and he's not that same player. He's slower. He's injury prone, so they have to go get a cornerback here, and I think the Lions will be enamored with him. The one thing that I like about Akuda is he's an elite cover guy, but he's also really good at tackling. He's not afraid to tackle, and a lot of corners in today's NFL, outside of the Derrick Henrys of the world that you just never could tackle in general. They just don't want to go up and make a tackle on a running back or a tight end.
yeah, yeah,
So I think he's going to be very good at both run stopping, making a tackle and covering. So I
right.
agree with you there. And I think ideally the Lions would want to trade down to like five or six and get Akuda and add some more draft picks there as well. Because I don't think they want to. I think they're praying someone falls in love with them and they trade up. Uh, Moving on to the Giants. This is weird for me because I'm almost guaranteed that they take an offensive lineman. It's just who do they take? I was telling you last time that Mekhi Becton's that freak athlete. There's a lot of potential there, and David Gettleman loves big offensive linemen who can move. So I think there's two or three guys: Tristan Wirfs, Mekhi Becton, and the guy I went with is another guy, Jedrick Wills from Alabama. I think he's going to be a very good starting tackle in football for 8 to 10 years. And I think the Giants need to get that because Daniel Jones is their franchise quarterback and they need to protect him. What do you think, Garrett?
I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of different ways you could go here with offensive tackle. Like you mentioned, they could also go to defense. Isaiah Simmons is sitting right there. They've people have mocked him to the Giants before. So this is the really interesting pick because you really can't go wrong here. And Jedrick Wills is I think he's the most day one ready. I think there's people with
Mm-hmm.
higher ceilings, but I think Jedrick Wills is the guy who has the highest floor, and he can play either left or right tackle. The Giants need both. I think this is a good pick.
Yeah, talk about Mekhi Becton. I think he may end up having the highest upside, and he could end up being the best player in the draft. But I don't think he's a day one. He's going to be a polished starter any means. He's going to have some bumps. He's still got to learn how to play tackle, and I think in the NFL he's going to have an adjustment period. So I agree with you, Garrett,
Yep.
on that one.
All right. Moving on to the fifth pick. This is easy. They've done so much work to get this guy, Tua Tagovailoa. I don't even know if I pronounced it right, but you know who I'm talking about. Quarterback from Alabama. This is a guy who has a lot of potential to be great. A lot of people are scared by the hip injury. I'm not scared at all. You watch the tape, not the tape, but the videos he's put out on Instagram. He looks really good, and I think that I think he's suited for success. I don't know if he starts week one. I think they're going to let him learn under the great Ryan Fitzpatrick, Harvard grad. And you can learn a lot from Harvard people. So um, going with Tua for the
Yeah,
fifth
that's what
pick.
I was going to say. you could learn from a lot worse quarterbacks than Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's a very smart guy and he's a true professional. So,
Yeah. And I mean, they've done so much work. Hashtag Tank for Tua started at this point last year. So, yeah, easy pick.
all right, moving on to the Chargers at 6. I did a mock draft a couple days ago and I had the Chargers taking Justin Herbert, but I can adjust my opinion. And I listened to a lot of experts and people who are, quote unquote plugged in. And by all means, they love Jordan Love and no, pun intended. Uh, I don't think that Justin Herbert is a great quarterback prospect. I think he has a lot of flaws. And I think the comparison, and he's not this player because people are going to freak out, but everyone says he's Patrick Mahomes like strong arm and mobile, and that's what today's NFL is. You need to be able to have a strong arm and be mobile. You look at Patrick Mahomes, Watson, Carson Wentz, Josh Allen, all these guys, the new breed of NFL quarterbacks. You got to have a strong arm and you got to be mobile because we all know the offensive lines in today's NFL are pretty weak.
Yeah. I don't think there's any quarterback that's worthy of being the sixth pick. I understand that that's the most likely pick, and I think whether they go with Herbert or Jordan Love, you're not going wrong. I don't want to say you can't go wrong, but um, those two guys are guys that are going to have to develop. I see flaws within both of them, and they're not. I don't think they're week one starters by any means necessary. So, um,
But Garrett, one thing before we move on this pick is the Chargers already have Tyrod Taylor there, so Jordan Love is not. He doesn't have to step in right away and play.
oh
They
yeah.
can they can play Taylor and they can sit Jordan Love. So that's where I kind of agree with that pick.
Well, I also think that they might be in the running to sign your guy, Cam Newton.
Yeah.
So I
And
don't know.
did you see what Colin Cowherd said the other day?
What's that?
I almost fell out of my chair when I heard it. He said that Cam Newton is not a better quarterback than Tyrod Taylor. I almost fell out of my chair. I was eating lunch, listening to him, and he said that, and I was like, all right, I'm done. Like that's Skip Bayless, LeBron James right there. That is just pure animosity and hatred towards one player.
Yikes! All right. I don't know
The Panthers, Garrett.
if seventh. Panthers on the clock. Seventh overall pick. I'm picking Derek Brown. There's a lot of different ways you can go with this pick. Some people might argue a guy like Isaiah Simmons, or get him another wide receiver to pair with Teddy Bridgewater. Uh, the run defense has been so bad for so long on this team, and I think if you plug in that nose tackle, Derek Brown, I think you're just setting yourself up for greatness. He's the next Snacks, in my opinion. Um, it's not too common that we see a nose tackle go top 10, but he has that kind of talent, and because he's able to stuff the run almost by himself, I think he's worthy of the seventh overall pick. Stuffing the run, not the biggest part of football, but I think you can justify Derek Brown at the seventh pick.
Not that I don't think it's a good pick, Garrett, but were you thinking Isaiah Simmons at any point here with Luke Kuechly retiring, or was this a
Yeah,
pretty confident decision? Because if it were me, I think Isaiah Simmons is going to be a better pro. I don't think Derek Brown's going to be a bad pro, but I think Isaiah Simmons has a chance to be, a rare defensive athlete that can play safety, linebacker, can rush off the edge. I think I would have won Isaiah Simmons here.
yeah, and I struggle with that too because it's like, well, they're both freak athletes, whatever way you want to put it.
Right.
And I think there's going to be more players like Isaiah Simmons to come in the future because I think the NFL is making a slow transition towards safeties that can play multiple positions. Um, and we'll get to that later as we talk about some of the safeties in this draft. But I think Derek Brown is a guy you can't replicate his size and his strength that he has in the middle of the defensive line. That's why I went with him.
Yep. Moving on to pick 8, the Arizona Cardinals. Uh, Originally, I believe I had them taking Mekhi Becton last time we did it with Kip. Shout out to Kip if you're watching this. Uh, but this one, I see. This is where if you do more research and you listen to people, Tristan Wirfs is a better fit in this offense. He's probably the most athletic probably the most athletic offensive lineman in this draft class. And what do the Arizona Cardinals do in Cliff Kingsbury's offense? They're They move the ball. There are a lot of screens. I think Tristan Wirfs would be a great fit here in Arizona. I think he's the most athletic guy, and I think he would be a great fit in Arizona. They re-signed DJ Humphries, their left tackle, who is pretty under the radar good. Not a big name. Not a lot of people know him unless you play Madden like me. Uh, and I think Tristan Wirfs will be a day one starter at right tackle. And like I said, he's athletic. And I think he is going to be a very high ceiling, high floor player.
Yeah, and the biggest difference between these two guys is Mekhi Becton has to take time to develop. It seems like the Cardinals are ready to just go at it now, just try to see how many games they can win this year, especially with that
Mhm.
DeAndre Hopkins trade. So I think this is a better fit for him. And while Mekhi Becton might end up being a better player, Tristan Wirfs is a safer player. He can play both left and right
Yeah,
tackle. And I think for the Cardinals, he would play right tackle since they obviously believe in Humphreys.
right.
Moving on to the ninth.
All right, moving on to 9 for you, Garrett.
Yep, ninth pick, Jacksonville Jaguars. I picked Isaiah Simmons here. This is more of a BPA pick more than a fit.
Yeah.
And this I have him listed as a linebacker, but in this defense, he'd probably play safety or play weak or strong side linebacker. Uh, they've switched around so many pieces of that defense. I don't know who plays for him and who doesn't anymore. So, but
Mhm.
um, Jacksonville Jaguars, and they could go wide receiver here too. Jerry Judy's still on the board. Um, but I think that Isaiah Simmons is just going to be more of a game changing player, especially on the defensive side where they've been so depleted ever since they traded Jalen Ramsey, Calais Campbell, um, stuff like that. So while he might have to share some time with Miles Jack, I think you can make room for Isaiah Simmons in that defense.
Yep. It's important to note here how he fits in this defense. Like you said, he probably plays on the safety or he plays outside linebacker. He's not going to play middle linebacker. They have Miles Jack, who's one of the best middle linebackers in football, in my opinion. He's athletic, he's fast. Uh, and I'm blanking on his name right now. Josh Allen, they drafted last year in the first round, stud all pro first year. Guy I wanted the Lions to get, but he was one pick ahead of TJ Hawkinson. So sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they have pieces on defense. They're going to be nasty. If you had Isaiah Simmons, the best player available, I agree with you there. They could have reached for a receiver, but I think best player available, I think that was the right pick. And I will say this: if the draft goes the way it's going right now, I think they will consider Justin Herbert because right now we don't have Justin Herbert picked yet. So how were you ever considering a quarterback here, or are you a full aboard the Gardner Minshew
I
train
am
here?
full aboard the Gardner Minshew train. Are you kidding me? And I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are
Until
too.
until they signed Cam Newton.
No, see, I don't know. There's odds makers saying that he's a favorite to sign there, but I don't know what they're saying. I don't think he goes there.
Well, that might be the only job left. I mean, I don't think Cam Newton wants a backup quarterback job. So I think if that's a one starter job, I don't think he has many
Well,
options.
my other thing too is I don't think you trade what's his name? I don't think you trade Nick Foles if you believe that uh Gardner Minshew isn't the starter. I think you'd want some sort of safety play in there. So because they traded him, I think they're fully aboard the Gardner Minshew train.
All right, moving on to pick 10, the Cleveland Browns. This pick to me is one of my favorite picks because the Cleveland Browns are desperate need for a left tackle. Greg Robinson, who played left tackle for them last year, had the drug issue at the border, and it doesn't look like he's getting out of prison any day soon.
Yikes.
So they need someone to start their day one in the regular season, and it's going to be Andrew Thomas, the tackle from Georgia. This is a guy that, a couple months ago when the college football season was ending, he was projected to be the number one offensive lineman taken and he could still be the number one offensive lineman taken. I don't think there's one guy that's guaranteed to be like Isaiah Simmons is guaranteed to be the first linebacker safety taken. You know, Joe Burrow's a guaranteed first quarterback. There's positions here, offensive line. This could go anywhere. You can move these guys around because there's no guarantee this guy's. It's whatever team likes the player the most, right? And the Browns have a desperate need at left tackle. Andrew Thomas can play left tackle and I think that would be a very good pick. This would be one of my favorite picks in the first round if the Browns took Andrew Thomas.
I mean, I like Andrew Thomas. I think that's a good pick for them. He is going to take some time to develop into that left tackle role. If you're the Browns, I think you're hoping for either Wills or Wirfs to fall down because those are guys that are going to be ready to start day one. And Yeah, I mean, there's no way to shake it other than that. And guys like Makai Becton and Andrew Thomas, I think those are guys that are going to have to develop into those day one roles.
See, I'll disagree with you on Andrew Thomas. I think he can play right away, whether it's on
Okay.
the left or right side. I think he will start right away. I was considering Makai Becton here, but the Browns need help right now. This is a roster that can win. They have one of the 10 best rosters in football. I argue that they're pretty limited at quarterback, but they have one of the 10 best rosters in football, so they need someone to go in there right away and play. I don't think they have 2 to 3 years to wait for a Makai Becton to develop, which, a younger team can, but I think they would love Andrew Thomas here.
They would. I would agree with you on that. They would like Andrew Thomas. All right, moving on to number 11, the New York Jets. I don't know. I don't think he falls as far in a regular draft, but the way the board shakes up, this is how far he falls. Jerry Jeudy from Alabama, best wide receiver in the draft, a game changer at the position. A lot of people have Henry Ruggs going here because they expect Jerry Jeudy to go sooner, but because he's there, the Jets got to take him. A lot of people argue that the Jets have to take an offensive lineman or something to protect Sam Darnold. Maybe if Sam Darnold could get the ball out of his hands faster, because Jerry Jeudy just
Ooh,
has.
shots fired at Sam Darnold.
No, I'm saying if he has the wide receiver help to get the ball out of his hands faster, that might help a little bit. Nothing against Sam Darnold. I love you, Sam. Actually, no, I don't. You went to USC and Notre Dame beat you all the time. Moving on. Yeah, I think Jerry Jeudy is just the obvious pick there if he's available. Um, he's also the best player available. So if you factor that in as well, Jerry Jeudy to the Jets. I like this pick.
I like the player, but I don't like the pick. And I'll disagree with you here, Garrett. I think they should go offensive line. This is where I think Mekhi Becton would fit in. The Jets and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's not a 1-2 year starter. Like I think Baker Mayfield could lose his job in a couple years if he continues to struggle in a new coaching staff. Sam Darnold's got 5 more years at least with the Jets, so they have time to wait for Mekhi Becton. That would be the pick here for me. He's still on the board. I would have went there. Another guy I would say I've been with you all along on Jerry Jeudy as being a very good wide receiver prospect. He's the best route runner in years, a lot of people say. But I watched CD Lamb, and I think CD Lamb is going to be an absolute star in football. If I were picking wide receivers, I think I would go CD Lamb over Jerry Jeudy as the number one receiver taken. But you can't go wrong with the top two receivers, top three even. I just think I would have went offensive line here, Garrett. What is your opinion? Were you ever considering another Mekhi Becton, or was this all wide receiver for you?
Yeah, Mekhi Becton was in question for me, and I think those wide receivers are like 1A, 1B, and 1C. You can't really go wrong with any of them. It's just about where they fit on your team. And Mekhi Becton easily could have been the pick here. The reason I went with Jerry Jeudy here is because he's like the fourth or fifth player on Matt Miller's board, which is the guy I follow the most. And so not only are you getting the best player available, you're also fitting the need. And I don't want to say they can kick the can down the road and get him another year, but um,
Right.
yeah, I just say I think Jerry Jeudy. I like Jerry Jeudy as a pick, and I think you could easily go with Mekhi Becton and have a discussion there. So I don't disagree with you.
Yep. Moving on to pick 12, the Raiders. First off, before I give the pick, Garrett, were you surprised with who I took here at 12?
Yep.
Before I tell you who I
Yeah,
picked, you were surprised.
I disagree with you on this pick, honestly.
Okay. Well, this is it. Personally, Garrett, I wouldn't make this pick. All right. This is what I think
Oh
the
boy,
Raiders will do.
good gracious! All
Uh,
right,
that's for all of them. If I were picking, I would have some different picks here.
okay.
I think John Gruden. Guess what? The Raiders are taking Justin Herbert 12th overall. And let me finish before you go off on me. They are not sold. They are not. They are not sold on Derek Carr. And I've been telling you this for a while, Garrett. And it will come into the fruit will blossom, and Derek Carr will be gone. Uh, just like that, like a magic show. Like poof, they're gonna draft Justin Herbert, and Derek Carr will be like, he'll be like in
He'll be in Detroit.
wherever. He'll be a backup somewhere. No, I actually like Derek Carr. I think the Raiders are moving off him though. They will take Justin Herbert here. They have Mariota there who can bridge it and play it while Justin Herbert sits if they need to. But what does John Gruden like? He likes bigger quarterbacks with a strong arm. Guess what? Derek Carr is not a big quarterback, and he has a good arm, not a not a strong arm. Herbert is big. I think he has a strong arm, but I think the Raiders go here with him. I don't love it, but even when I put it down, I was like, well, they did sign Marcus Mariota and they do have Derek Carr, but they're
Yeah,
going to
take
go
the
with
three
Justin Herbert here,
softest
Garrett.
quarterbacks in the NFL and put them on the team that hates soft quarterbacks. That's literally what we're doing here. I hate this pick. If Justin, I the Raiders should not go quarterback here. They have so many needs, not only on the defense but on the offense as well. Wide receiver is a big need. So is linebacker. I mean, they kind of addressed it with Nick Kwiatkowski, but even then, like, there's just so many ways you
Hey,
can
you
go here.
forgot Corey Littleton, one of my favorite underrated players in
Yeah.
football.
Oh, I did forget about him.
He's a really good young linebacker who
He's
the
better than
average fan
Nick.
doesn't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, he's better than Kwiatkowski, but like there's so many
Yeah.
needs for this team. If they go quarterback, it just kind of shows that like I don't know. And the uh Herbert's probably the softest quarterback in this class. I'll just be honest with you.
Ooh.
I'm not a big
Hey, I don't love Justin Herbert as a prospect either, but I just think the Raiders moving into a new stadium, there's gonna I think they need buzz. I don't think Derek Carr is look, I actually like Derek Carr. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's, probably in that 12 to 17 area as far as where the quarterbacks are.
I would agree with
So
you.
you can win games with him, but I don't think Derek Carr is leading your team to a Super Bowl. And guess what? They play in the same division as Patrick Mahomes. And if the Chargers take Jordan Love, they need to get they need to get with the program. Is what I'm saying here. If the Chargers get Jordan Love and you're already going up against Mahomes, the Broncos have Drew Lock. These teams are ahead of you right now, and they already are established or think they're established at quarterback.
Yikes, dude. I
You don't like that pick, Garrett. I
Well,
know.
what's going to end up happening is they're going to have each quarterback lead a drive or like lead a quarter or something, and then they'll just compare the stats and say, all right, who played better? And that's who they're going to decide their starter. Like that.
Load managing at quarterback position.
Yeah, they'll have, all right, you can
All right,
start game one. Yeah.
moving on, Garrett. 13, the 49ers, they traded away DeForest Buckner to get this pick. What are they doing here?
They're going to grab their other receiver, Henry Ruggs the third. I think he's a better receiver than CeeDee Lamb personally, but it's all about fit, and you could go with either one of these guys here. I think wide receiver is a need for them after Emmanuel Sanders went away. Yes, it's a run first team, but what Sanders was a good big part of their Super Bowl run, and I think if you're able to get a guy for the long haul who's able to develop into being that number one receiver for you, it would be great. And I also think he's very versatile. He can play outside, he can play inside, um, over the middle, out routes, in routes, deep, whatever you want, however you want to spin it.
What's
So
your comp for Ruggs? Is it Tyreek Hill?
I don't Tyree. I don't know if there's any player like Tyreek Hill. I'll just be honest with you. I don't know if I have a comp for Henry Ruggs the third. I don't know if I've watched enough tape on Ruggs to be honest with you. So there's that too. And I'm not gonna act like I know all of these guys, but Henry Ruggs is yeah, I like Henry Ruggs, and I think he has a potential to be a number one receiver in this league.
Uh, all right. I like the player, but I don't like the fit on this team. They already have Debo Samuel, a smaller receiver who can move around, gadget player. Debo Samuel is a tremendous player actually, and the pick I would have made here, I would have thought Javon Kinlaw, the defensive tackle from South Carolina, that or I would have if you're going to go receiver here, I would have went C.D. Lamb, and I think he's a bigger receiver. I think he would fit better in this offense. They don't have that receiver that's a big body, go get the ball type of guy. Uh, they have Debo Samuel there, who's a shorter guy. I think CeeDee Lamb would be the pick here if they're going receiver. But in my opinion, they traded away DeForest Buckner. They need to revamp that defensive line, which is already probably the best in football. And I would have probably went Javon Kinlaw or CeeDee Lamb here.
And it's
Offense, defense.
and it's another thing that like I don't think defensive line is a huge need for them. Yes, they traded away Buckner, but they re-signed Eric Armstead. Obviously they believe in the guys they have. They still have D Ford on their team. Um, and I would agree with you that there's no big body wide receiver, but they also have George Kittle. That's a big body right there.
Right,
So and he's
right.
and he's more of a red zone threat than any receiver they could draft. So um, that's what I would say to that.
Yep. moving on to pick 14, Garrett, the Buccaneers. Now, this one's tough for me. It's tough for me because this whole time we've been talking about this mock draft, we talked about this player, Mekhi Becton, how he might be a developmental prospect. But at pick 14, Garrett, here, I don't see how the Buccaneers pass on him. Their biggest need right now is offensive line, and the best offensive lineman available is Becton, who you could argue would be the fourth overall pick to the Giants. So I think the Buccaneers would love Mekhi Becton. Is he a developmental player? Sure, but they can develop him, and I think they would love to have this guy at pick 14. There, you could do a lot worse than Mekhi Becton at pick 14. How do they address their offensive line? They go get a couple more veterans in free agency, and then you can. You're not done in the first round. They can go get a safer guy in round 2 or 3. I think they take a shot here on the developmental prospect here. I think they go with Becton here.
And I think offensive line is also one of their biggest needs too, especially with Tom Brady. Maybe you can get Tom Brady's trainers in there and help him develop to be a better offensive lineman. But yeah, I like the pick here. And with him being I don't want to say the last top tier offensive lineman because we have another one in the first round that you could kind of argue in this spot. Mekhi Becton definitely has the highest ceiling. And even though this might be Tom Brady's last year or last couple of years, however you want to spin it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I like the pick.
You know what? You know what I just realized, Garrett?
What's that?
Jumping ahead, well, I'm looking at our mock right now. You had 3 straight wide receivers mocked.
Yeah,
What, are you just
I
going to
did.
pick all the receivers in the draft?
Well, I mean, it's looking at the teams, looking
You
at their
didn't leave me
needs.
with any receivers to mock. You went bang, 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 bang. So let us know who the Broncos are taking at 15.
Well, thanks for setting me up there. Broncos are taking CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver from Oklahoma. Yes, they have Cortland Sutton, but there is a gaping hole once they traded Emmanuel Sanders. And I think, and this is also kind of a BPA, CeeDee Lamb, I think he fits very well opposite uh, Cortland Sutton. And getting these tall wide receivers is kind of the AFC West thing to do. Besides the Chiefs, of course. But looking
Right.
across the division, a lot of these guys have big, tall receivers. Uh, and I think getting another weapon for Drew Lock to throw to. You could also argue offensive tackle, but with a lot of them gone here, and I don't think Josh Jones is worth the 15th pick, in my opinion. But so yeah, this is kind of a BPA. It also fits a mild need for them at wide receiver.
Uh, I love this player, but I would do you one better. I think I would flip flop these receivers. I think ideally the Broncos want Henry Ruggs, and they've been talking about him a lot. I've been looking at their fan pages, and these fans are just enamored with Henry Ruggs, and I think he would fit their offense better. Cortland Sutton's already a big body receiver. Who do they need? They need a burner. They need someone to the Tyreek Hill comp. I think is pretty fair. He's smaller. He's got wheels. I think I would flip flop here. I'd go CeeDee Lamb to the 49ers, and I would go Henry Ruggs to the Broncos. But guess what? The Broncos got, in my opinion, the best receiver in the draft, and you could do a lot worse than that. I think that would be a great pick for the Broncos.
I would agree.
But I think as far as like the general managers, like how they do it, I think the Broncos are locked in on Henry Ruggs. I think that's their guy, and they're just praying that he falls to them.
All right.
All right, Garrett, moving on to the Atlanta Falcons, 16th overall. The Atlanta needs a lot of help. I don't get the Todd Gurley signing at all. That signing is just like, look, Todd Gurley had a great couple of years. He's a great talent. No, he's one of the great running back talents, but he's got a bum knee, and he's not. You can't close your eyes and just wake up the next day and think he's going to be Todd Gurley from a couple of years ago when he had 20 plus touchdowns. That's not going to happen. I don't know what this franchise is doing. They have no cap room. They got an aging superstar receiver. I'm going Javon Kinlaw, the defensive lineman from South Carolina. They have Grady Jarrett there, but guess what? You can never have enough defensive line help, and I think Javon Kinlaw would be a fit here. I would have also considered Caleb Von Chason from LSU. Oh, is a good edge rusher, but I'm going with the defensive lineman, Javon Kinlaw, Garrett.
I think that's a good pick. And about the Todd Gurley signing, it's a 1 year deal. There's not a whole lot of risk there, and this is obviously putting some hope into Todd Gurley resting his knee up and taking the proper physical therapy needed to kind of restore that knee as much as he can. So a lot of it's putting some trust into Todd Gurley than it is in the Falcons organization because it's only a 1 year deal, and um, and Todd Gurley doesn't care where he goes. He's still getting paid at least $5 million by the Rams organization wherever he goes. So there's that as well. But I like the pick,
Yep.
Javon Kinlaw. He's the best interior defensive lineman. Some people argue him going in the top 10. I don't see that happening, but yeah, I like the pick.
Yep. At 16, I think that's a good spot for him.
Yeah, I like the value right there in the middle of the first round. Moving on to
All
these.
right, the Dallas Cowboys are on, Garrett. The America's team.
Yeah, 17th overall pick. I have them taking Caleb on Chase on another kind of BPA pick, but I also think edge rusher kind of fits a need for them. Um, you look at some of the guys that they have. I don't know. I think Randy Gregory's still there, and I think that there's other guys that work more as rotational players than they do as actual starting
Mhm.
guys. Caleb Von Chason is a guy who has the potential to be a starter for many years in this league. He also has the potential. If he fits into a 3-4 defense, I think he's more of an outside linebacker because he can also kind of drop back and go into coverage.
Yep.
But for the Cowboys, they're a 4-3, at least I think. And he would fit in as a left or right end. Um, and I like the pick LSU. Yeah, I like the pick.
Yeah, I love this pick here. I'll give you credit on this one. I actually love this pick. They lost Robert Quinn to the not. I believe they signed. Did they sign to trade him to the Bears? Either way, they lost
No,
Robert
yeah,
Quinn, who was a big factor for them. They replaced him with Caleb Von Chason. I love this pick here. I would have also considered a defensive back. They have a huge need at cornerback because they lost Byron Jones
yeah.
to, I think is overrated, but he's still a really good player. He's not worth the second highest paid cornerback in football, but he's still a really good player. I would have thought like C.J. Henderson, the defensive back from Florida, but this is not a bad pick here. They can. This is not. I would be okay with this if I was a Cowboy fan.
Yeah, and I think Chase Son has the potential to get picked at 16 or even higher than that. If that were the case, CJ Henderson would be the easy pick here.
Yep. Moving on to the Dolphins. This pick is from the Pittsburgh Steelers when they traded away Minka Fitzpatrick. They are going to grab offensive tackle from Houston, Josh Jones. Josh Jones, to me, has a limited ceiling. Like, I don't think he's ever going to be an all pro, but I think he's going to be a good starting tackle for 5 to 10 years. And the Dolphins drafted Tua in my draft earlier. And what better than to get a guy to protect Tua for the next 5 to 10 years, you hope. And I think this guy, limited ceiling, but I think he's got a high floor. I think he's going to be a good starter for the Miami Dolphins, and this is a good pick for me here. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I agree. You get Tua now. Get Tua some protection. Easy stuff there. Josh Jones is a guy that's going to have to develop. The Dolphins aren't ready to win now, anyway. So yeah, I would agree with that pick.
Before we move on, Garrett, we were just talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and how, they got Tom Brady there right now. Would you think that Josh Jones would be in play there because he's more of a ready-made start right now? He's not going to be blowing you off the charts with his size and athleticism, but do you think that it could be a point where Tom Brady's like, get me a guy that'll play right now? And I think Josh Jones is more ready to play than Mekhi Becton.
I think they're both at the same level as terms of ready to play, in my opinion, at least. And I think Mekhi Becton has potential to be a better starter. So I think, and even Tom Brady said he doesn't want roster control. He just wants everybody's phone numbers. And I
But
think
that's what he says publicly.
you don't
You
believe
think
him.
he's not having anything? He's got to say the right things publicly, but in house,
Oh my god.
him and Bruce Arians are controlling that team.
You don't think he has any say in roster control?
I do think he has say in roster control.
Or I'm saying, my bad. I don't think he has any say in roster control. I think
Do I think he's got say on the whole entire roster? No, but I think he's like, you know what? This offensive line is whether we want him to have roster control or not, the offensive line is the biggest need for Tampa Bay. So they need to go find someone. I'm just saying I would take Becton over Jones, but I think Jones could be in play because I think he's a safer, ready to play right now kind of player.
um you could say that. I don't think he's a safer pick. And you could say he's in play, but I wouldn't like the value there at number 14 for them personally.
All right, Garrett, the Raiders at 19. This pick is from the Khalil Mack trade from the Chicago Bears. What do they do here?
All right, you drafted Justin Herbert with the 12th overall pick. Now you get him a cornerback on the opposite side of the ball to intercept him when in practice. You get him
In
CJ in
practice.
practice. You get him CJ Henderson from Florida. There's a massive drop off after defensive back, after Jeff Okuda, CJ Henderson, and after that, it's just kind of a cliff in terms of talent. And CJ Henderson is a guy that's going to be able to start day one. They have a lot of needs on that defense, and cornerback is one of them. And I think they fill it here with CJ Henderson.
Yeah, they got rid of Gary on Conley, who was their number one corner last year. They drafted Trayvon Mullen from Clemson. They have a big need at cornerback, and I would love this pick here. Henderson is not. I think if you're doing tiers, I don't think he's in that Jeff Okuda tier. I think Okuda is a lot better
Well,
and
yeah,
has a
I
lot
agree.
higher
I agree.
ceiling, and
Yeah.
that's why. But I think CJ Henderson's the clear cut number two
Mm-hmm.
cornerback in this draft.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't remember his size, but I do. He's over 6 foot and he's got long arms. So that's at today's NFL. You need cornerbacks like that.
Yeah.
So you don't want a 5'10" guy with short arms. So I think that makes sense there for the Raiders.
Yeah.
Moving on. There's been a lot of traded draft picks. So the team picking now is the Jaguars. This is from the Rams when the Rams traded for Jalen Ramsey. So the Jags are on the clock. All right. You took Isaiah Simmons at 9. I was hoping you didn't take a linebacker because I would have went linebacker here, Garrett, but you can't go linebacker back to back,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the team. They already have, a couple of good linebackers. Uh, I went Xavier McKinney, the defensive back from Alabama. This is the guy that a lot of people are mocking to the Dallas Cowboys. And I think if he's there, I think the Jaguars love this pick. They need to replenish that defense. They have some stalwarts. They get Isaiah Simmons and Xavier McKinney. That's a big addition to your defense.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think this is also kind of a BPA pick for the Jaguars here too, because they did trade. Oh my gosh, what's his name?
They traded AJ Boye and they traded Ramsey last year.
Why did okay? Yeah, Boye plays cornerback, not safety. I don't know what I was thinking. So, but yeah, I think Xavier McKinney he's the clear cut number one safety in his draft. You put him as defensive back. He does kind of have that versatility to play at different
Yeah,
positions. Um, in this defense, I think you'd play free safety since they already have Ronnie Harrison over there at strong safety.
yeah.
Um, and I think this is just a good pick. I don't know. You can't really.
Thank you.
It's just you can't really like justify against this pick at all.
I would love this defense, and I'm going to nerd out real quick because I nerd out a lot in football. But this defense would have a lot of young talent. You would have Josh Allen on the edge. He can play defensive end and outside linebacker. You have hopefully Telvin Smith comes back. He missed last year with an injury. You have Miles Jack in the center. You add Isaiah Simmons and Xavier McKinney. This defense, and you mentioned Ronnie Harrison, who's also a pretty underrated strong safety. This defense is this is what Jacksonville needs. They need a strong defense. When they made it to the AFC Championship game, they ran the ball with Leonard Fournette and they had a great defense. So I think adding two defensive playmakers like Simmons and McKinney, this would be great for the Jaguars.
Yeah. How is it that you can trade like three of your best players on defense and still have like one of the best defenses in the league? You know what I mean? So
It's because it's a defensive factory. It's just like they keep spinning it.
yeah, maybe if they can use that factory in their O lineman or something, they'd be a better team. um, moving on to the 21st pick, Philadelphia Eagles. Um, I have them picking Patrick Queen. He's my favorite linebacker in this draft. A lot of people like Kenneth Murray, but I think Patrick Queen is a good fit here for the Eagles. Eagles have a few different needs on that defense. I would go linebacker here because CJ Henderson's already picked, and
Well, they added big play Slay, so defensive back
that's
is
right,
not the
yeah,
biggest need anymore.
yeah. I knew they
So
traded for some. I couldn't think
if
of
they
who they
didn't
traded
add
for.
Slay, then cornerback would be it would be an option here for them, but they added Slay, so it's not necessarily they're not going to take a cornerback here.
And I think Patrick Queen would be a perfect middle linebacker for this defense that usually plays two of them at a time. I'm
Mhm.
blanking on the top guy's name, but maybe Patrick Queen ends up being the number two linebacker over there.
Were you ever considering wide receiver here, Garrett? Because last year Carson Wentz was throwing to like what was his name, Greg Ward? Like they're the wide receivers last year. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey, it was hit or miss. If it was eggs for breakfast, then he was playing, but if it was, cereal, he wasn't playing. And Deshaun Jackson missed. He played the first game and missed the rest of the year? Like,
Yeah,
get Carson Wentz some weapons. Look, the Eagles could take a linebacker here. Patrick Queen, I agree with you. He's the better linebacker than Kenneth Murray, and I think it would be a good pick. But they need to get Carson Wentz a reliable offensive weapon. They drafted J.J. Arthega Whiteside last year in the second round, was it? And was he bad last year, Garrett? I mean, he was terrible. He had all the opportunities in the world. He was the guy, and he didn't want it. So,
there's people
were you
wearing.
ever considering wide receiver?
Yes, I was considering wide receiver. Justin Jefferson would be a good pick here as well.
See, that's where I would have went. I would have went either T. Higgins or Justin Jefferson.
There's some people wearing Nelson Aguilar jerseys because they don't want to catch the
Oh,
coronavirus. So
hey, wait, didn't Aguilar sign with the Raiders? I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. He's not no longer in Philly, but I want to say he's on the Raiders now.
oh
Either way, I'm
well,
geeking out here. Uh,
well,
Nobody cares about Nelson Aguilar. He's like the 95th best wide receiver in football. So,
you're even reaching there with 95th. I was gonna go about 120th or something. So um,
uh,
do,
yeah, I like the player, but I disagree. I would have went either T. Higgins, who's the bigger receiver, or I would have went Justin Jefferson, who's more of the like a Juju Smith-Schuster type possession. Not gonna flare you with big, spectacular catches down the field, but I think they need help so badly at wide receiver.
okay.
Not a bad pick. Moving on to the Minnesota Vikings. This pick is from the Bills when they traded away Stephon Diggs. Look, I don't get what the Vikings are doing here. I I think Diggs is a very good receiver. Like he's in that 7 to 10 area for wide receivers in football. He's very good. He's better than Adam Thielen. That's just my opinion. What do I know? Uh, they did get a good haul for him though. What they got for Stephon Diggs was great compared to what the Texans got for Hopkins. Don't even get me started there. They got a good haul for Diggs. I just wouldn't have traded Diggs. The Vikings will take linebacker Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma. The Vikings, I see. This is where they could go. They need a cornerback bad because they lost Xavier Rhodes, who was already diminishing product.
They lost
I
Trey
just think they
Waynes too.
go. What's that, Garrett?
They lost Trey Waynes too.
Yeah. So defense cornerback's pretty big need, but I think they'll address that in round 2 or 3, and they get a linebacker that can they can plug and play, start right away, and I think he can learn from Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr. There's already some elite linebackers there that Kenneth Murray can take him under his wing, and they can teach him this is how to be a pro, this is how to be an elite player, and I think he would develop nicely next to those guys.
Yeah, I agree. And you could really pick any defensive player, and I wouldn't disagree with you when it comes to them. And Kenneth Murray is going to be a guy that I think will be able to start day one.
Yep. The New England Patriots, Garrett.
Yep. Going into pick number 23, this is where I have Justin Jefferson going. I have no idea what the Patriots are doing. Um, and I think if Jordan Love or Justin Herbert are available at this pick, I think this is where they would go. And obviously, there's no mock trades, so there's definitely a
Mhm.
potential for that as well. But they made some moves that are like win now. They've also made moves that are rebuilding, retooling for the future. So I just go with Justin Jefferson because he's the best player available. It also fits a need for them at wide receiver, and I think Bill Belichick would be ecstatic in his chair. Actually, I think I could have a representation of what Bill Belichick would look like if you got this pick. I think that's what he would look like. Um, my
uh, Jefferson on the Patriots. See, I like the player. I just don't know if this is a great pick. I think they should be looking to trade up. Obviously, in this mock, they can't trade up because we're doing it pick where you're at. Everything I'm hearing, the Patriots are probably going to go with Jared Stidham as their starting quarterback
Mhm.
next year, which blows my mind. Talk about the conspiracy that they're taking for Tua, or take it for Tua, take it
Trevor.
for Trevor Lawrence. You might as well put some, barbecue sauce on that. And as Shaq would say, that's some barbecue chicken, because that is definitely what would happen if you're starting Jared Stidham. I don't know what they see in him. Like, they see he was a fourth round pick for a reason. I think I would go elsewhere here. I think they should sign Cam Newton. And I've been saying this all along. People have this narrative that Bill Belichick wouldn't work with Cam Newton. Guess what? Cam Newton's never had a coach like Bill Belichick. Cam Newton is an elite quarterback talent, and I think Bill Belichick would love to get his hands on him. At what they don't have any cap room, so Cam Newton would have to come in at like $5 million on 1 year. But I think Cam Newton, you want to go win a Super Bowl, go to New England, go learn under Bill Belichick, and go win one. Yeah, that's my opinion on that matter.
Yeah, and this is the second year in a row they're taking a wide receiver in the first round, which doesn't really look the best for them. But I also think that the Patriots are a BPA kind of team. They don't really look at need, and I think this would be the best player available for them.
The guy I was when we did our last mock with Kip, you had Zach Bond as like a late first round pick, and I was like, what? Like, I'd never heard of him, like personally. And then I went and I looked at him, and obviously when you watch YouTube stuff, it's all the good plays, right? It's never he
Yeah,
misses a play and whatnot. But I watched Zach Bond, and I think he'd be a great fit in New England. That
yeah.
that would be a guy I think would be a fit there. They lost Jamie Collins to the Lions in free agency. They need to replenish the linebacker core. I think they would love it if Patrick Queen or Kenneth Murray fell to them, because I think that would be the guy, because those are the two top, behind Simmons, those are the two top linebackers, right? But I think they would consider Zach Bond here. I think he would be an impact player for the Patriots.
Well, speaking of Zach Bond,
Speaking of Zach Bond is right. Hey, what do you know? The New Orleans Saints here at 24. Wide receiver is not the biggest need anymore. They went
Mhm.
out and they signed Emmanuel Sanders, which is an unbelievable move if he can stay healthy. That's going to be talk about scary. They're going to have how are you going to double team Michael Thomas now? Because I don't even get me started. The Saints are looking good. They go out and get Zach Bond, the linebacker. I love it here, Garrett. The Saints already have a nasty defense, and they got one of the best defensive ends in Cameron Jordan coming off the edge. I think Zach Bond would be a good fit here.
it's funny because like there's not really a need for the New Orleans Saints.
Mm-mm.
You might argue like interior offensive line, but in Zach Bond's a guy that's not going to be ready to start day one. But I think if you have him behind sorry, if you have him behind a guy like Alex Anzalone and just that kind of core, they have Dennis Allen running the defense over there. He'll be able to progress um, Zach Bond into being a good player. So I agree with the pick, and I think he'd be a good player for the Saints.
Yep.
All right.
Moving
Um,
on to the Vikings, Garrett. This is their actual pick from when the final standings. Who are they going with?
Yep, they're going to go with Yatir Gross Matos. So a lot of people view him as a second round prospect. I think he slides into the first round because he's a more traditional edge. A lot of people are considering AJ Epinesa to go to the Vikings because of his versatility. I see him succeeding more as an interior defensive lineman. And I think they go for more of a traditional edge rusher. They got Kenneth Murray with their first pick. Now they solidify their front seven with Yatir Gross Matos.
Yeah, I think the Vikings here they lost. Didn't they lose Everson Griffin? I believe he's no longer on the team, right? I could be wrong. You got to fact check that. But they
Mm-hmm.
already have Daniil Hunter, who's one of the best edge rushers in football. Talk about a monster. Daniil Hunter looks like a person that was made in like a laboratory. Uh, yeah, I think the Vikings they had two defensive playmakers. I would have probably went cornerback here because it's such a big need. Uh, but yeah, on this pick, I would say I would go cornerback here, Garrett.
Even with the next guy you'd pick is Jeff Gladney, and he's more of a slot guy than anything. You would still go with him,
Yeah,
at
or
least in my
Jalen
opinion.
Johnson. Either or. I just think cornerback's such a big need here.
Okay, I mean you're not wrong,
Uh,
but I'm kind of going with how the board shakes up, how the board falls to them.
All right, pick 26, the Miami Dolphins. This pick is from the Texans when they traded away Laramie Tunsil, the left tackle. Were you surprised on my pick here, Garrett? I took DeAndre Swift.
No, I wasn't surprised. This You're in love with this player,
Uh,
so
well, here's the thing. Caleb, they don't have a a lead back in that backfield. Caleb Balaj, he's a rotational guy. He had this opportunity, he didn't succeed. They traded away Kenyon Drake last year. Uh, DeAndre Swift would be a good fit here. They go get their offensive lineman and their quarterback. Might as well go three in on offense, and they go get DeAndre Swift.
yeah. And the thing that when it comes to running back and any skill position, if I'm being honest with you, is am I able to get this? Am I able to get this player with my next pick? Am I able to get this kind of player? That's usually the question I ask myself when it comes to running backs, wide receiver, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. And I think you're able to do that with a guy like DeAndre Swift. But he's a wild card. He can go as high as 20. He can go as low as 45 or 50. Like, we have no idea. DeAndre Swift is my favorite. Sorry, my voice is dry here. He has he has potential to be the number one running back in this class. And if you put him in a backfield all by himself in with the Miami Dolphins, then I think he'll succeed. And I don't disagree with the pick here. I just think I would have waited until they have the fifth pick in the second round. I might have waited until then to pick a running back.
Uh, See, I don't think, like you said, if you don't think the player's going to get to you, you got to take him. I think DeAndre Swift has a ceiling of being the 14th overall pick to the Buccaneers, and I think he's got a floor of being the 32nd pick to the Kansas City Chiefs. I would love him on the Chiefs. I think that's my dream scenario because, we're fantasy, and I think that'd be great for fantasy football, but I disagree. I think his ceiling is 14, and I think his floor is 32, and he falls into the Dolphins at 26. Moving on, Garrett, the Seahawks. I actually love this pick, and this is a great pick.
Yeah, and you could argue I'm going earlier to people like the Saints or
The
teams like
Patriots.
yeah, teams
The
like that.
Patriots, didn't they just lose their center, Mark Andrews?
Who did they lose them
No,
to?
that was Travis Frederick retired. My bad.
Okay. Yeah, so you could argue I'm going much earlier. I have them taking Cesar Ruiz, interior offensive lineman from Michigan. He's best interior. He plays center. He is the versatility play either guard spot, and the Seahawks, they don't have a lot of needs on offense, but guard is one of them. And you could have him play either side of the line. So not either side of the line, either side of the guard position. So yeah, I like this pick, and I
Yeah,
think the Seahawks would be ecstatic if he fell this far. I don't think he does, but because this is how the board shakes up, this is who I would pick.
I think this is the guy who is rising up draft boards. Early on in the process, he was probably a mid-second round pick, and he is rising. And I would not be surprised if he ended up being, in the 23 to 32 range in the draft. I think he's in play for the Patriots, the Saints, our team that could be. I think this is a great player. He's athletic. He was one of the only good things that happened in Michigan last year. You're more of a Notre Dame fan, Garrett, but you probably watched some Michigan football, right?
Sometimes, and I mean, yeah.
There was not a lot of good there in Michigan. Shea Patterson. There's a lot of, overrated, a lot of sloppiness. But Cesar Ruiz was one player who, athletic. I think he would fit well in that Seahawks culture.
He's one of the late first round, early second round guys that I think is going to start day one, no matter where he goes.
Yeah. Moving on to the Ravens. This one's another one, Garrett, where this team doesn't have glaring needs, right? They're set at quarterback. They just added Calais Campbell, a stud defensive lineman. That's a great signing for them.
It was a
They're
trade.
just
They
going to
traded
add
a
to the
fifth rounder
well.
for him.
Well, yeah, a fifth round pick. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
that's a great haul,
Right,
honestly.
they're basically signed him. A fifth round pick. I mean, Calais Campbell's a stud. Uh, they go out and they get AJ Epineza from Iowa. We were just talking about. I think he can play throughout the defensive line. He's not going to be a great player, but he's going to be a good rotational guy. and play all, throughout the whole entire defensive line. And guess what? The Ravens don't have many needs here, and they go out and they get a guy that just keeps anchoring their defense, and he would be a good fit there in Baltimore.
And yeah, and what a great fit this would be if they were able to get Ebenezer this far in the draft. He's more of
Yeah.
a middle first round pick guy, but if he falls this far, the Ravens would be ecstatic to have him and create one of the one of the best front sevens in all of football. Ebenezer has that versatility to either play edge or play in the interior line, and I love this pick for him. I think this is a good pick.
All right, moving on, Garrett, the Tennessee Titans,
Tennessee Titans.
29.
Um, I believe they just lost to Logan Ryan, or this is the last year of his contract, one way or the other. I have them picking Jeff Gladney, cornerback from TCU. I mentioned he's a slot corner. Um, they have needs kind of all over the defensive back area besides Kevin Byard. So you get Jeff Gladney. He has the potential to be an outside corner. I don't see it, but there's potential there. But I think Jeff Gladney would be a good fit in a Titans team that just kind of needs defensive backs all throughout.
Right. One player I would consider here, obviously they're not a team with big needs, right? I would have considered the running back Jonathan Taylor, or if DeAndre Swift would have fell here. Either of those guys I think would be good fits here. You ask why? Well, they're not tied long term to Derrick Henry. They just signed to a franchise tag. They can kind of load manage. Imagine if you had Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry both. The key is to keep them fresh for the playoffs, and they can ride Derrick Henry, right? I think Jonathan Taylor's in play here. I think a running back is in play.
I don't think so. I think you can get a running back in the third or fourth round, and if that's your plan for Derrick Henry, you can easily do that in the third or fourth round and get a guy who's good enough to keep Derrick Henry. I
Right.
wouldn't invest a first round pick in a position that you basically already have. He's a superstar X factor on Madden. Like you can't, you know. So like I wouldn't try to invest in a backup. You know what I mean?
I love all these Madden references. People are like, I don't play Madden. The Green Bay Packers. This is a pick where I feel like they don't have that big need anymore because they just signed Devin Funches, and so they have a one healthy, he's reliable number 2 receiver next to
It's still a need.
Adams.
I would consider it still a need in my
Yeah, and
opinion.
that's why I still took a receiver. I took T. Higgins from Clemson. I think you can never have enough weapons, and when you have Aaron Rodgers who's aging, and you're the Super Bowl window is now for the next 2 to 3 years, and then I think that window is gone. They have a great running back in Aaron Jones. They go out and get another playmaker. I believe he's 6'3", so he's a good size receiver. And a lot of people compare him to Devontae Adams. So if you have 2 Devontae Adams on your team, that's not bad.
I like T. Higgins. I think he's a great outside receiver, and I think he would be a good red zone threat, like he was for Clemson.
Yep. The 49ers here, Garrett, at 31.
Yep. 49ers, they're looking for a press coverage cornerback to play opposite Richard Sherman. Sherman's about as old as dirt. He's not going to be there forever. They're looking for his replacement.
He's still got the superstar X Factor badge on Madden though, Garrett. So don't
He's
disrespect him like that.
good corner. He's still a good corner, but they're looking for his number 2 and eventually his replacement. And with this pick, they go Jalen Johnson from Utah. He, like I said, big body, press coverage. He's able to play in that zone scheme that they like to play in the 49ers defense. And I think he's a guy that fits great here. And I think he's someone who has the tools to eventually replace Richard Sherman as the greatest cornerback of all time. I'm just kidding.
And you can have a lot worse guys to mentor a young quarterback coming into football than Richard Sherman, who is a Stanford graduate. You know, people don't realize this. Richard Sherman's a very smart guy. You know,
He signs his own contracts. He doesn't have an agent.
right. He's a smart guy. Richard Sherman's probably one of the 10 smartest guys in the NFL. So, and he's a good talent corner. He's aging right. You've seen it in the Super Bowl. He got burned by Sammy Watkins, but I think they go cornerback here. It's important to note their cornerback 2 sucked last year, Garrett. I don't know if you know, but Akilo Witherspoon was terrible for them last year.
Yeah.
Every broadcast, the broadcasters like,
Who is this
there is
guy?
a glaring hole here at this outside corner, and he would get burned on just about every play. You know what? The comparison here is like if you're a receiver and you go on the huddle, you're like, I hope I break left because then that means I'm up against a Killer Witherspoon. They basically were probably praying like, put me on the left side, coach.
Yeah.
The Chiefs 32. This is where in our first mock draft I had DeAndre Swift, and in this one they go with Jonathan Taylor. Another one here. The Chiefs don't have glaring needs. They just won the Super Bowl. There's no glaring needs here for the Chiefs. They got Chris Jones back with a franchise tag, so he's not gone. They don't need defensive tackle, so they go get a running back. I don't think Damian Williams, Darrell Williams, any of the Williams. They got so many Williams there. And Kip, yes, I'm not going to forget Darwin Thompson. You're the great Darwin Thompson. But Jonathan Taylor here would step in, and it would be a great fit. He's an athletic freak like a Barkley, and I think this would be a great pick for the Chiefs. There's no big needs here.
Yeah, I think running back is their biggest need on this team. And if they get a guy like Jonathan Taylor to play with
Right.
Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, like if you're to put like the 40 times, like average all the 40 times of every offense, I think this might be the fastest of all of them. I think like this is
Right. And then they got the strongest arm quarterback in football, so good luck defense.
yeah, that's I
But can
think
you imagine how scary this team, Garrett, would be if they had an established running game? Like, they don't even have an established running game. Their running game is subpar at best. If they had an established running game, forget about it. Imagine play action fakes with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Tyreek Hill would score one long touchdown a game. Every game he'd score one long touchdown off play action fake. It would happen every game.
yeah, and the potential for their
The
offense
moment, the
just
moment, the moment the safety bites and his ankles go in, he's done. It's a touchdown every time.
yeah, just call it a day. Jonathan Taylor would really unlock the potential of this offense if Patrick Mahomes doesn't have to, run around and sling it every single play. So
Right. If you could hand it off 17 times a game, that would help, right?
yeah, um, that
All
is
right,
the end of the
Garrett,
first
moving
round.
on to round two. Uh, we're not going to spend a lot of time on these picks, partly because these are second round picks and our job isn't to study these guys like we're Todd McShay. So we're just going to list off the names and we will stop if we have, a strong opinion on a player. So Garrett, if you have a strong opinion, tell us about the player. If not, we'll just go through the picks here to make it go a little bit quicker here for the viewer.
All right. Bengals, you get a quarterback with your first pick, Joe Burrow. Now you're getting Austin Jackson. He projects to be a left tackle. He might also be able to play right tackle as well, or you could slide Jonah Williams to the other side of the line. Austin Jackson, 33rd.
The Colts. This pick is from the Washington Redskins. They take a decent quarterback from Washington. They just signed Philip Rivers, but we all know Philip Rivers is about as washed as top of the line washing machine. But Jacob Eason, the thing on him is he's got a strong arm, and I think the Colts would be. I mean, every year there's a quarterback or two that gets taken in high in the second round because these teams miss out on their first round quarterback, and I think Eason goes here. Garrett, the Lions at 35.
Also, want to mention, I don't like Eason. I want to throw that in there. Um, Lions at 35. I've been picking Antoine Winfield Jr., who's a safety from Minnesota. You might cringe at me taking two defensive backs for the Lions with their top two picks, but like I said earlier, they're the NFL is making a transition where safeties are going to have to play more than one position. This is exactly what Antoine Winfield can do. Big body, so he can also play linebacker as well. He can shift in there. They just traded for Deron Harmon. Harmon's going to be a guy who plays more on special teams than he does on the defense. So Winfield's my pick. 36 to the Giants to you, Nick.
Just one note on the Lions pick. If I were the Lions, they already got their defensive back in Jeff Okudah. I think they should go running back there, and the best available would have been J.K. Dobbins. Kerryon Johnson's good, but he's not shown the ability to handle, a workhorse role. And they don't have, please, Bo Scarborough. Like, oh my goodness, if I have to watch him again on Sunday, I think J.K. Dobbins is a good player, and that would be a good fit there. But nonetheless, moving on to the Giants, Garrett here at 36. They already got their offensive lineman. A need here is cornerback. They go get Christian Bolton from LSU.
I like that pick. First round talent. 37 Chargers. They got a quarterback. Now they're going to get a running back. The best available running back on the board, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You might argue that they just got Austin Eckler. Why do you need a running back? That offense was successful when they had two good running backs, when they had Melvin Gordon and Eckler. And I think Edwards-Helaire can kind of replace Gordon in that offense.
I think you're underselling Justin Jackson. This is the guy I talked about last year. He didn't have a big fantasy impact because Melvin Gordon returned and he was third in the pecking order. But this is going to be Austin Eckler is the number one back now. He's going to get the most touches. But I think the Jaguars. I think the Chargers like Justin Jackson, and I think they're comfortable with him being their number two rotational back. But they could go running back, but I just don't. I think they have more needs than a running back there in the early second round.
Okay.
The Panthers 38. They lost Greg Olson. They just signed Teddy Bridgewater. They need to get him weapons. They have a couple good receivers. Samuel and DJ Moore are good receivers. They have Christian McCaffrey, arguably the best running back in football. They go out and get tight end Cole Kmet from Notre Dame. Garrett, I'm not a big Notre Dame guy, so tell me about him. Is he a good player here in the early second round?
Cole Kmet is a big body, and I think there's more potential here than there is. What you see, there's more potential to grow into something better, just because he's a big body and he has the potential to be a great blocking tight end as well. Right now, he's a good red zone threat, and he's a guy that can catch passes, but I don't think he's a great route runner, and I don't think he's a great blocker yet. But I think you put him in there, you pair him with a college coach. Obviously, he's been to college the past 4 years, so I think he would like the atmosphere of the Carolina Panthers.
And it's a big need.
Yep.
It's a big need because there's Greg Olson's gone, and their only tight end that has any kind of value is Ian Thomas, but he's not special either. So that fills a need. Garrett, moving on to the Dolphins at 39.
Dolphins at 39. I just lost my place. There it is. I have Grant Delpit. I think this is their first defensive player that they've taken. Grant Delpit, if you look at his tape from 1 or 2 years ago, he would have been a top 5 pick if he were to enter the draft then. Yeah. He fell off. That's why he's in the second round, but he still has that potential to be one of the best safeties in football. That's why I have him going to the Dolphins. Are they able to develop him? I don't know, but if Delpit's
I would love him in Miami. Brian Flores, you've seen what he did last year with a very, very terrible roster. Come on, that roster was terrible. You've seen what they did at the end of the year. The Dolphins have poor ownership. I don't love their ownership, but Brian Flores knows how to coach. And I think he would love to get his hands on a first-round talent like Grant Delpit.
Okay, I'll give you that. Moving on to the 40th
the Texans. This is from the Cardinals. You better hit on this pick because this is a pick that you got for trading away DeAndre Hopkins, your franchise leader. I believe he was, right? Over Andre Johnson.
Probably. I think so.
Either way, the Texans have a lot of needs. They made the playoffs last year because of Watson, but this team has so many needs. JJ Watt I got respect for JJ Watt. He does a lot of good work in the community, and he had a great career, but he's not a good player anymore, Garrett. Not a good player anymore. You've seen in the playoff game, this guy's always injured. He only had impact on 5 or 6 plays. They got to go out and get a defense lineman, Marlon Davidson from Auburn. They lost DJ Reader to free agency. This is a big need. They go out and get an interior defensive lineman from Auburn.
I like that pick. Almost first round talent. He's kind of high second. This is a good spot for him. 41 Browns. I've been taking Ross Blacklock. He's the best interior defensive line on the board, and I think it fits a need for them out of TCU.
Jaguars at 42. This is a guy who, in some instances, is it's hard guy to judge because, interior offensive linemen, they're hard to where do you take these guys, right? Or is it too early to take them in the second round? They get Tyler. Is it Badaz?
I would say Biadasz. Biadasz is how I pronounce
it. He's from Wisconsin. He can play center. He's primarily a center, but he could probably play guard. The Jaguars here have a need at offensive line. And if they're moving forward with Gardner Minshew, they need to protect him. So they go out and get an offensive lineman, and they also can help in the run game with Leonard Fournette.
Bears at 43. Bears are finally on the clock without having the first round pick. They get AJ Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson. They need a guy to play opposite Kyle Fuller, who's not even that good in my opinion. But they get AJ.
What? You don't think Kyle Fuller's any good?
It's not that he's not good. I don't think a lot of people rate him in
He's got
like
that superstar badge on Madden, Garrett. Superstar X
a
Factor.
lot of people rate him in the top 10 cornerbacks. I don't see him as that. I think he's more like
No, he's not a top 10 cornerback.
exactly. So that's I see him
He's
more as
good
like
though.
a
He's I think you're underselling him. He's good.
I think he's more the 11 to 20 range. And now they get their guy to play opposite him, AJ Terrell. He's not his day one starter, but he's someone you can develop.
Yep. 44, the Colts. This one, I love this pick. And this is the pick that I'm not a Colts fan, but if this pick happened, the Colts would be loving this. J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State. Dobbins is a hard runner, downfield runner. He's very comparable to Ezekiel Elliott. These Ohio State running backs, they come in, it's just like Alabama. It's like a factory. Just keep developing players. Uh, he played in Ohio State, very well coached, hard runner. I think he would fit there in Indianapolis. The Buccaneers scared at 45.
Buccaneers at 45. This is more of a best player available, and I think this could also help out Tom Brady, who's obviously his roster control according to Nick. So they picked Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver from Arizona State. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans kind of control the outside. Ayuk is going to be their slot receiver, and yeah, it's not the biggest need in the world, but I also think I also think this is a team that could use the most help for Brady as possible. They didn't want to get any wide receivers for them and for Tom Brady in New England, so now let's get all of the receivers for Tom Brady in Tampa Bay.
Uh, I disagree with the position pick here. I'm not going to disagree with the player, but the position, I don't think wide receiver is that big of a need. You already have Mike Evans, stud receiver, Chris Godwin, probably even better than Mike Evans, in my opinion. The wide receiver is not the biggest need here. They got to keep adding to that offensive line because it is their weakness of this team. They drafted Mekhi Becton and Armach. They need to go get a guy, probably interior offensive line. Probably someone like if Tyler Betas would have fell to them, I think that would be a guy there. Moving on to the Broncos at 46. This is the guy, Stephon Diggs' brother, Trayvon Diggs from Alabama. This is a guy that is kind of a player that not a lot of people know how to rank because I see some mock drafts where he's going as high as, to the Cowboys in the first round, and I see mocks where he's like a late second round pick. So he's a dynamic player. Not a lot of people know where to put him. I think the Broncos to get here. They added AJ Boye, but they lost Chris Harris Jr. Now you can never have enough depth in the defensive backfield.
Yeah, I like the pick. 47 Ravens. What am I thinking? Oh yeah, you went defensive line in the first part of the draft, and now you're going to the offensive side. They have some no names at wide receiver. Let's go get him Denzel Mims, and I think he's the potential to be the number one receiver on his team. Hello, you there?
No names at receiver, Garrett. Put some respect on Marquise Hollywood Brown. What do you mean no names at receiver?
He's not that good. He runs straight. I can run straight. He runs straight. That's like his ability. He's a fast guy and he's able to run deep routes, but you need some versatility in the wide receiver game. That's what Denzel Mims brings.
Moving on to the Jets at 48. They're going to take interior offensive lineman John Simpson from Clemson. Look, the Jets you took a receiver in the first round, so this is a huge need now.
Yep.
Like offensive line, in my opinion, is bigger need than receiver. They addressed receiver in the first round. They got to address offensive line. They go get a offensive lineman John Simpson from Clemson.
I like the pick. Bit of a reach, but it's a need, and yeah, I would agree with that pick. 49 Steelers. They're finally on the clock. I have them taking Raekwon Davis, interior defensive lineman from Alabama. They lost Javon Hargrave to I forget which team, but he's not with the Steelers anymore.
He went Hargrave. Didn't he go to the Bengals?
He switched to division
Look,
rivals.
we'll look this up afterwards. It's in the heat of the moment.
Yep.
Here, you know what, Garrett? I'm going to look it up right now.
Okay. But
because it is on my mind.
Raekwon Davis, big body, Alabama guy. You gotta love those Alabama interior defensive linemen. Um, and a lot of people have them taking an offensive player or even taking a quarterback like Jalen Hurts or Jake Fromm, a guy like that. Uh, Don't take some bum in the second round just because you're scared of what the future looks like. Ben Roethlisberger is probably playing for the next 5 years anyway, so it doesn't matter. Um,
Hargrave, Philadelphia Eagles.
yep,
So we were both wrong.
there you go. So, who do you have the Bears taking at number 50?
50. This is a guy who in the combine was compared to, and trust me, I'm putting the quotations there, Calvin Johnson. He's above 6'4", and he ran a sub 4.40. So that's where the comparison comes in. The Bears need a receiver here. They go get Chase Claypool from Notre Dame. Garrett, what is your opinion? You're a big Notre Dame guy. Is that a good pick at 50 for them?
It's a great pick at 50. A lot of people are asking the question of whether he plays wide receiver or tight end. I think he's a better as a wide receiver. He's a big body and he plays better on the outside. You look at a lot of his red zone plays, and when he's on the outside, that's when he scores the most. Um, I like this, and he has the potential to be a great route runner for the Bears, to play opposite Allen Robinson. And if they were able to get him, they kind of complete that wide receiver trio because they already have Allen Robinson and they have Taylor Gabriel in the slot. So I think this would be a great pick for him. No chance in, uh, no chance in my mind he becomes a guy like Calvin Johnson. But I think Claypool is a good enough guy to be a second wide receiver.
No, please trust me. Disclaimer. Disclaimer. Disclaimer, I did not call him Calvin Johnson. I said he's had comparable measurables to him in the combine.
Okay.
Trust me, I think Calvin Johnson's one of the 5 best receivers all time. Don't even get me started there.
Okay.
All right. The
51.
Cowboys, Garrett, 51.
51, the Cowboys, you go get, who did they pick in the first round? They picked Caleb Chase on in the first round. Now they get their defensive back, Kyle Duggar from Lenore Rhine. He's a small school guy, but he's someone who, big body, he's able to play multiple positions, which is, comparable to what we said about a lot of the safeties in this draft. Kyle Duggar, um, some people say he has potential to go first round, which is very possible. There's a lot of people who say he's the best safety in this draft. That's also very possible. I wouldn't put him above McKinney, but I think if you're able to develop him, he might become a better player by the end of his career. Kyle Duggar's a guy who, in the Cowboy system, he's gonna be great. And this is a team that needs defensive backs. If they want to play him at cornerback, they can. I think his best fit is at free safety or strong safety. So Kyle Duggar to the Cowboys. I love this pick for him.
All right, 52. I'm going to keep this one short for the Rams. They need offensive line help. This is the biggest need. Like Jared Goff is a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. But how did they get to the Super Bowl? How did they have such a great year? The year they made the Super Bowl, they ran the football. They ran the football, and Jared Goff was making his due off play action. Uh, they need to get back to running the football. They need offensive line help. Jared Goff lives off play action. He's a limited quarterback. He's not going to be great. They go get offensive tackle Isaiah Wilson from Georgia. They need offensive line here, Garrett. If they don't take an offensive lineman here, that's just poor management.
Yep, best right tackle. Actually, not best right tackle because Jedrick Willis could also play right tackle. But
At this point in the board, he's one of the best offensive linemen available. So,
yep, I would agree with that. Number 53, Eagles. They didn't get a wide receiver. Now they do. KJ Hamler from Penn State. Don't know much about the guy, but they need a wide receiver, so that's why I picked him.
yep. I watched him a couple times on Penn State when they're on TV. He's a good he's very small actually, very small, but he's good with the ball in his hands, and I just don't know if he's going to stay healthy because he is pretty small. But obviously, you took a linebacker in the first round. They need a receiver, and that's not a bad receiver to take there.
Okay.
54, the Bills. This is a pick where I don't see glaring needs. They have every spot locked down. They have a very good, probably a top 5 cornerback in football in Tre'Davious White. They got Ed Oliver in the draft last year to anchor their defensive line. They're going to go out and get a tight end, Bryson Hopkins from Purdue. Go get Kyle Allen, another weapon, and they just traded for Stephon Diggs. So they're just going to have a bunch of weapons everywhere. And Singletary will take over as the number 1 back. I love this offense next year.
Do you think Hopkins ends up becoming a blocking tight end, like a number 2 or number 3 in those double tight end sets?
I think he's. I don't know much about the player, so I'm not going to try to break him down like
Okay.
he's great at one thing or the other. I just know tight end would be a fit here, and he was the best available tight end.
Okay. I don't know much about him either, and I honestly never heard of him until
I
you
didn't
typed his
watch
name
many
down. So,
Purdue football games, put it that way.
yeah,
Like a lot of these teams, like Georgia's and all in the world, like I watch a lot of them, but I don't watch a lot of Purdue.
yeah, Lenore Ryan, big names. Going into number 5, the Falcons. They got this pick from New England. Lord knows how. They pick a cornerback, Noah.
From the Muhammad Sanu trade last year, the Patriots traded a second round pick for Sanu.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So they get Noah Benagene, something like that. Noah I from Auburn. Um,
It's literally going to be Noah I.
and literally, yeah,
No one's going to want to try to pronounce his last name. So he's going to be in the huddle. Noah I, get in there.
yeah.
Be screaming at him.
All right. They'll just call him I when he's in the huddle. Uh, yeah, cornerback from Auburn. It fits a need, and now they don't have true font, so they have literally no one. They have you and me starting at cornerback over there, and they're gonna need a guy. And they need a guy. He's not gonna be able to start day one, but he's gonna have to since they're just so depleted in
Yeah,
defensive
guess
back.
what? You're going to have to learn fast, buddy, because they have no one else there.
Yep.
The Dolphins at 56 via the New Orleans Saints. Jalen Rieger, wide receiver, TCU. I mean, if the right now, I think the Dolphins are having a great draft. They got Tua, they got Josh Jones, the offensive tackle. They get DeAndre Swift. Didn't we give who did we give them earlier, Garrett?
In the
The
second
Grant
round.
Delpit from LSU,
Yeah.
and then they go out and they get Jalen Rieger. I'm loving this. They already have a great receiver in Devontae Parker. They need a reliable number 3. Albert Wilson's the number 2. So I like this pick.
I like this pick too. He's a good run after the catch guy. He drops the ball sometimes, so that concerns me. But other than that, I like the pick. Going to number 57.
Yeah, I think if he had better hands and he didn't have drop problems, he would probably be a high second round pick, maybe even a late first.
Yeah, he'd definitely be higher in terms of the wide receiver in this draft. Number 57, the Texans. I'm going with Josh Uche. Uche,
Uche.
Uche, something like that.
Uche.
You kind of cringe at the Texans taking 2 defensive linemen with the only 2 picks they
Oh,
have.
see, I didn't like that. And I'll get to it in a second.
Yeah. And if you're Deshaun Watson, you're shaking your head. But this is a guy who has the potential to be a good, not only edge rusher, but an good outside linebacker as well. If it's a need for him, and they're gonna have to start him day one. So, Josh Uche from Michigan.
If you're Deshaun Watson, you're filing the divorce papers right now. Hey, Bill, sign this and trade me out of here.
Yeah, really.
No, were you ever considering offensive line? I mean, did you watch your offensive line last year? I mean, jeez. I mean, it was honestly, if you, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Watson was probably pressured on more than 50% of his snaps.
Did they
And
not?
they have one really good offensive lineman in Laramie Tunsil, but everything else is just they drafted Titus Howard last year in the first round. He is not, not a great first year. He could still turn it around next year, but they need an offensive line. Guard, center, guard. That's all weakness there in Houston.
Yeah, you could also consider a guy like Lloyd Cushenberry with this pick.
Yep. The Vikings, they go out and get a cornerback, Cameron Dantzler from Mississippi State. We all know Mississippi State produces great cornerbacks. All I need to provide is one name, Big Play Slay, came from Mississippi State. They develop cornerbacks. We didn't mock the Vikings a cornerback yet. They need to get that because, like you said, Trey Wayne's gone to Cincinnati, and Xavier Rhodes no longer the elite All Pro guy. He's gone to Indianapolis.
And you don't have to suck up to Big Play, so he doesn't play in Detroit anymore, so we don't have to act like we love him so much anymore. I'm just kidding.
I still love him.
Yeah, so
the
do I.
Texans at 57. No, the Seahawks at 59, Garrett.
Yep, CX 59. They're going to go with Terrell Lewis, edge from Alabama. This is a guy who could go at any point during the second round. He can go high, low. When he's healthy, he's a top 5 pick. He just has injury concerns, which is why he dropped this far. And if he's able to stay there, and if they're able to sign Jadeveon Clowney, then you have a pretty good 2 edge rushers there. And
Not to get too like off track here, but where do you think Clowney ends up signing? And do you think he gets a long-term deal, or do you think he comes back on 1 year prove-it deal?
He's gonna get a prove it deal with the Seahawks. There's not like if he there's a team that was interested in signing him long term, it would have happened by now. Um, like Exhibit A would probably be like the Dolphins or the Giants, teams that like
Mhm.
have a lot of money to spend and aren't really looking to. They're not teams that are going to make the playoffs this year. They could have signed Clowney, and they both have needs at edge rusher. If they believed that Clowney was the guy long term, they would have signed him by now, and they have the money to do so. They didn't, so he's just going to end up signing a 1 year deal or end up getting never. I was going to say franchise tag, but you can't do that. So he's just going
Yeah.
to end up signing a 1 year deal with the Seahawks, who have literally no money left.
Clowney is one of those guys who's very hard to like analyze because he has all the attributes. He's big. He's got probably one of the stronger guys in the NFL. He's got all the potential in the world, but I don't think he's lived up to his ceiling. And the hard thing for teams to do is, he's still young enough to where he could get there, right? He's not a 30 something year old guy. He's still, I think he's like 26, 27. So he's still young enough to where he can be there. So it's hard for these teams. The talent's there. He just needs to produce. So I think you're right. 1 year prove it deal, probably with the Seahawks. I don't see him wanting to go to a non-contender for a year like
The Bengals.
the Giants. I think he would want to be on a team that's competing. Moving on, Garrett, the Ravens at 60. We mocked them. AJ Epineza, the defensive end, and who else did we mock them? Denzel Mims, a wide receiver from Baylor. They go out and they get off. They don't have big needs here, right? This team is set. This team is a Super Bowl contender. They go out and get an offensive lineman, Lloyd Cushenberry, the third. Don't forget the third from LSU. And at this point in the draft, go out and protect Lamar Jackson. So
Yep.
they don't have big needs. They have Ronnie Stanley at left tackle, all pro. They don't need they should just trade their picks now for next year's draft picks.
Well, the thing is like they also I forget their center's name, but him and Marshall Yanda are really old,
Oh,
and you're gonna need to get.
Marshall Leonda's been playing for 30 years.
It seems like it. I mean, you're gonna have to get a guy to replace him. So whether he
Right.
retires within the next 2 years or so, so I like this pick a lot. I do think, and it's I would if you have players that are really old and still starting, I would consider that a need. So yeah, I think this fits them.
Yep.
Going to 61,
The Titans at 61.
Titans at 61. They drafted Jeff Gladney with their first pick. Now they're going Julian Aquara from my boys over there at Notre Dame, edge rusher. Um, I
Tell us about them.
he's I'm not going to say he's like this all world player because he's not. He's going to be more of a rotational guy, and they don't really have a huge need an edge rusher, but he's going to end up being a fifth or sixth rusher when they end up throwing more guys in there. He's going to be rotating with Jarrell Casey, and I think his name's Jeffrey Simmons on the other side of the line.
Harold
Um,
Landry.
yeah, he's another edge rusher for him. So he's going to end up being a rotational guy.
Yep.
Not the biggest need for him, more of a BPA pick, but yeah, I like this pick for the Titans.
Yep. I like that pick as well. The Packers at 62. Packers, we mock them a wide receiver. They go out and they get offensive tackle Lucas Nang from TCU. They just lost Brian Bulaga to the Chargers. So, Aaron Rodgers, he's getting older. He's had some ankle and foot issues. So the thing you need to do is get guys to protect him. They take a shot from the tackle from TCU, Garrett.
Yep. And if they end up finding a guy to play a right tackle, this is also a guy that could end up replacing David Bakhtiari in the left side as well, because Bakhtiari is
Yeah.
like 47. So, um,
Yeah. Him and Marshall Yanda have been playing in the league for since like 1995.
Tyron Smith too. Um, the Chiefs, they got this pick from San Francisco. What's the word? How ironic. And they're going to pick Stanford Samuels III, cornerback from Florida State. This is a guy who's more of a third round pick than he is a second round pick. But when you have a need at cornerback, a gaping hole, they had
Yeah.
Marcus Peters. Now they don't. You can reach for a guy like this, and he might not be able to start day one, but he might have to. It's the best way I can
Yep.
put it.
And that's a great name. Stanford Samuels, like, come on. And
Yeah,
then you put the third at the end of it. Like, I mean, geez.
all
Like,
pro
what's your
just
name?
because of his name.
Stanford. Like, did you go to Stanford? No, my name's Stanford. Moving on, Garrett, the Seahawks with the 64th pick. This one's from the Chiefs. So how ironic there as well. They take Bradley Anif, the edge from Utah. This pick right here. I'm assuming that they bring back Jadeveon Clowney, but this pick's more of a long-term developmental guy. Hopefully, maybe in a year or two, if you don't have Clowney, this guy can step in and fill that void. And we
Uh,
already know they have the best linebacker in football. Shout out to Bobby Wagner, the best linebacker in football. Not even close.
yep. Come on the podcast if you're open, Bobby Wagner. It's my pitch to Wagner over there. Um,
And Bobby Wagner is like a 99 on Madden with Superstar X Factor. So I mean, come on, let's be honest.
yeah. I mean, so is like Kyle Fuller and Juju Smith-Schuster, but you know.
No, Schuster's like an 86.
Yeah, I
He
know.
ain't no
I know,
99.
just messing around. Neither is Fuller. So that's our 2-round mock draft. Let us know in the comments below. Did we mess up on any of these picks? Are you a Texans fan? Are you angry about
I
two
think
defensive
I think
linemen
I messed up on 12, Garrett.
for Justin Herbert? Yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree with that. Are you a Texans fan? Are you angry with some of the picks we made for taking 2 defensive linemen instead of
Hey,
taking
I,
offensive?
I'm you can't be mad with my pick. I got him interior defensive lineman. Be mad at Garrett. He took what do you take, Garrett? An edge rusher? They should be taking an offensive lineman with that second pick. I already got him a defensive lineman. Go get him an offensive lineman.
All
When
right.
we were doing the picks, Garrett, I was like, he has to take like if you know anything about the Texans last year, you know how poorly their offensive line was. And then you put an edge rusher. I was like, oh boy, I'm dead.
um, Yeah. If you're a Michigan or Michigan State fan, what do you think about some of the picks we made from your colleges? Michigan State didn't get any picks here because just garbage.
Michigan had one pick.
No,
And it
Michigan.
shows how bad it shows how bad your university is if you have one pick in the top 64.
No, you had no. They
Ohio
had
State had what, like five,
Michigan. No, Michigan
four or
had more than one
five?
pick. They had Caesar Ruiz,
Oh, they had yeah, you threw one in there. You threw that edge rusher for Michigan, who
Josh
shouldn't have
Uche.
been a second round pick.
No, they had like 3. I'm
They had
thinking
two.
Caesar Ruiz. They had oh, what's his
Keep
face?
looking.
Josh Uche. Whatever. Michigan has good talent over there. May not be the best coach, but they have good talent over there, Michigan.
Before we go, before we go, Garrett, Kip texted me before we went on, and he had one question before we go, and we'll both give our opinion. Where do you think Cam Newton will go, and do you think he will be a starter week one?
Uh, I don't know. I don't know. I'll be honest with you.
You want me to go first, and then you can copy my answer?
Sure. Go first.
All right, he should go. The Chargers should want him, but he's not going to go there because they're all in on Jordan Love, and they think Tyrod Taylor is comparable to Cam Newton. That's what I heard says. So I'll take her for it. Cam Newton should want to go to the New England Patriots, 2020 Super Bowl champs. If we get the season in, he's going to the Patriots. Book it. I'm going to make it happen.
I would love for that to happen. I think that'd be a great fit. I feel like if a team wanted to sign him by now, they would have made it happen. Um, because it hasn't.
Well, one thing you're forgetting is Cam Newton's had a couple injuries, and it's not like he can go to these team facilities and have their doctors check him, right?
Right.
So all they're doing, like, we're in a strange situation with the times we're in. So I think if all things considered, he would be signed if he were able to visit a team and they have their doctor check him out. But you're taking Cam Newton's word for it, so.
Good
And he
point.
wants to get signed. He's not going to say, "Oh, I'm still not, I'm not passing my physicals," right?
Yeah.
And that workout video he posted, that looked pretty good to me. It didn't look like he had shoulder problems or anything like that. So
I'm
I
gonna.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Chargers have a roster now that could win the Super Bowl, and they are sticking with Tyrod Taylor. So I'm done.
That's the thing. I'm gonna pick. If I have to pick a team, I'm gonna go with the Chargers. But in all honesty, I think he might go. He might take a gap year. He might just take this year to go.
Just to sit out.
Not to sit out, but like to train and to. I mean, yeah, sit out, but to like train and like do a little bit of rehab. Make sure he's not. He's not
See,
gonna
I think he's going to
is
come
injury
back
prone.
motivated. I think he feels like the Panthers, did him wrong, which they kind of did. You know, the Panthers could have released him earlier because they knew they were going to get a new guy. I mean, all this talk that they were going to stay with Cam Newton was all BS. If they wanted to, they didn't treat their franchise quarterback, the guy that was probably the franchise's best player of all time, they didn't treat him with any kind of respect.
And we'll see. That's the thing is like they wanted to trade him, they couldn't find it, and I think the longer he sits out, the more motivated he's going to be. So I think if he
Yeah, I
comes
think
back
he's motivated.
for the 2021 season and he comes back on like I don't know the Dolphins or something or the Jaguars or
You know what?
just
I'm going to say it. And before we prolong
the
this
Raiders.
podcast, we're going to end it. I'm going to end it. But just one last thing, Garrett. How about Cam Newton to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to back up Tom Brady for a year or two and then take over with that offense? Whew.
Maybe I just got
Or
some.
I got one even better. I got one better. Go to the New Orleans Saints and sit behind Drew Brees.
There you go. I just got breaking news. Antonio
What
Brown
happened?
joins Lamar Jackson and Hollywood Brown for a workout today. Are we saying
Oh,
Antonio Brown?
I thought he signed.
Antonio, well,
Antonio Brown isn't coming back in the NFL, Garrett. There's no way.
obviously he's going to the Ravens now, so he needs
He's
to.
got no. He's got so many legal issues to deal with.
He's gonna
On
be
top of the coronavirus, there's no way he's getting signed.
yeah, but like now
And if he
he's
does get signed, the NFL's going to step in and they're going to say, "Guess what? You're not playing, buddy. Year suspension."
well now he's gonna go in a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens. So have fun with that.
Okay, very early. Last thing. I know we're prolonging this. Garrett, your very, very, very early Super Bowl pick. Who would it be right now? If you had a very, very early pick.
Based off this mock draft, Baltimore Ravens, no doubt in my mind. If they
All
get
right,
the
I'm going to
guys,
take a
yeah,
flyer here. This is a flyer. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs.
that's not a flyer. They won last year. Goodness gracious. All right.
Yeah, flyer.
All right.
All right,
Thanks for watching
that's
the
it
podcast,
for
guys.
today's podcast.
Yep. We'll come. We'll probably have. We might have one more mock draft before the draft starts, and we might do some reactions to the draft picks once they actually happen a month from now. There's not a whole lot going on in the world, so we might have one or two more
How
mock
bad the
drafts.
Lions do in the draft?
Yep, we'll have our live reactions to that as well. So yeah, thank you guys for watching as always, and thanks for supporting as always. Yeah, prime time fan.